Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And in this episode, I look at the possibility of Humza Yousaf lying to MSPs in the Scottish Parliament last month when he denied COVID travel ban was politically motivated. Now this story takes us back 1 month when Douglas Ross clearly asked him about some emails which appeared to suggest that Scotland relaxed the travel restrictions to Spain on the grounds of it may upset the Spanish authorities should Scotland become independent going forward and apply to become a member of the European Union. So he asked a question last month in Parliament to Humza, who categorically denied it. But more evidence has came to light to suggest he was telling porky pies. Okay, so let's have a look at the article which has just appeared in the Telegraph. Headline: Humza Yousaf accused of lying to MSPs after denying COVID travel ban was politically motivated. New evidence suggests Spain restrictions were eased over fears of a vengeful Madrid could stop an independent Scotland from joining the EU. Humza Yousaf has been accused of lying to MSPs after new evidence emerged which supports claims that the SNP lifted COVID travel restrictions to Spain partly for political reasons. The First Minister told Holyrood last month that decisions on Spanish travel made in July 2020 during the pandemic were based on purely epidemiological concerns. Hard word for me to say. Also, Humza struggled with it when I remember seeing him respond to it in Parliament. This was despite the UK COVID inquiry having already uncovered evidence suggesting Spain was treated more favourably due to fears it could block an independent Scotland membership of the EU as revenge if it was not added to a travel exemption list. Now the Scottish Tories have obtained further emails which show that Scott Whiteman, a Scottish Government official, said in July 2020 that politically a decision on Spain had to be announced in the Scottish Parliament. Just hours later, the rules were eased. A government briefing note also made clear that Scotland's external relationships, including with Spain, had been adversely impacted by the current restrictions and called for the rules to be relaxed. Douglas Ross, the Scottish Tory leader, said that Mr Yousaf had some serious explaining to do. He added it would appear from this explosive email chain the First Minister misled Parliament when he assured me at First Minister's questions that the decision to exempt Spain was taken for purely epidemiological reasons. These messages reinforce what we learned at the UK COVID inquiry, that the SNP government were influenced by the political ramifications of maintaining a travel ban rather than solely public safety. Those who lost loved ones will rightfully be appalled that even at the height of a pandemic, the SNP were still gaming their independence obsession. There now is a dated the 20th of July 2020, Humza Yousaf's tweet: after a thorough review of infection prevalence rates, we will add Spain to the list of countries exempt from quarantine measures. This, along with all countries, will be kept regularly under review. Now, I'll come back to that once I stop reading the article. Mr Whiteman had written a note disclosed during Nicola Sturgeon's evidence to the COVID inquiry in which he warned that the Spanish government won't forget if travel restrictions were maintained. He added there's a real possibility they will never approve EU membership for an independent Scotland as a result. Mr Yousaf had claimed on February the 1st that it was fantasy to say that deception in Spain was taken for any other reason other than epidemiology. Doing all right with that word. Quarantine rules for travel to Spain were lifted by the Scottish Government on the 20th of July 2020 after concerns were raised over the impact in relations with Madrid and their implications for independence. Spain was removed from the exemption list on a UK basis days later following a rise in cases. Scottish Government spokesman said COVID restrictions which broadly aligned across the UK were vital to protect the people of Scotland from the harms of COVID-19. This was a prime focus and intention of ministers, clinicians and civil servants across the Scottish Government. The decision to add Spain to the exemption list and subsequent decision to remove it from the list were both based on UK government data on the prevalence rate in Spain relative to Scotland's prevalence rate at the time. And it's clear from this correspondence. There you are. Now, one thing I find quite bizarre, going back to the tweet that Humza Yousaf put out on the 20th of July, after a thorough review of infection prevalence rates, we will add Spain to the list of countries exempt from quarantine measures. Now, let's go back a month when Douglas Ross challenged them on it during First Minister's questions. Humza clearly said that it had nothing to do with anything other than the scientific data. But he also claimed back then, and you can Google it and find out, I remember it, I've watched the video before making this one, he quite clearly stated that if it was the case that they were doing anything for political reasons, then they would just have simply put them on the exemption list, suggesting that they didn't. Well, there on the 20th of July, his tweet quite clearly states that they put Spain on this exemption list. The list that a month ago, Humza, in Parliament, said they hadn't done. This man is crackers, right? The fact that any discussions around COVID have any suggestions of anything other than scientific and medical research and data behind them shows quite clearly that the Scottish Government were taking in factors such as political reasons and, indeed, as proven with these emails, independence. So when they sat in the COVID inquiry, and 100 times since and before, when they claim we always done what was proper for the country and never took politics or independence into account when making decisions, then these emails prove that as total bollocks. Because if these things were not a consideration, why would they even been discussed? If, indeed, as you say and claim you were correct, then any discussions around any decision-making process about COVID would fail to mention either independence, rejoining the EU, or political. And these emails clearly do. So now to suggest to the Scottish public, again, to suggest to the Scottish public, that nothing other than the well-being of Scotland, scientific data and all this stuff was taken into consideration, you are clearly lying. Because you would just simply wouldn't have these items discussed at all in the decision-making process. And you can rest assured that the Scottish Government haven't up until now and will never have all the documents to prove you right or wrong, because you've destroyed half of them, the majority of them, I should say, despite having clear evidence that a COVID inquiry would be taking place, and completely against the legislation from 2005 that states if there's a public inquiry to take place, nothing should be destroyed. And you've clearly done that. So we'll never know the full the limits of what you discussed in decision-making process to COVID, because the information is not available, because you broke the law. So the fact that some documents quite clearly show that you were taking independence, you were taking political views of other countries, and you were taking potential future EU membership into consideration because they were in the discussions, is quite frankly abysmal. And for you guys to stand there day after day, week after week, and over the years since COVID, and try and tell the Scottish public that you didn't do it, is total lies. You think Scottish people are thick. You are treating us as if we are thick. And I'll state something that I'm quite happy to state previously, and I will state again in the future. The Scottish electorate are not stupid. And you will find out when the Westminster election takes place and the votes are counted, and then the follow-up to that will be a Scottish election. And the people that you talk to as if they're stupid and tell lies to constantly will do what any sane person would do, and that is hurt you at the ballot box. The only people who still vote for you The only people that still believe you are the cult, and they will never change. You could shite in their tea and they'd thank you for giving them a hot chocolate, because that's what you've created, a cult. And they're the only people who will stand by you as the days pass and more information comes out about your lies, and that will not get you enough seats in Westminster or your own parliament soon. Take that to the bank. Okay? So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please subscribe. Give us some comments below, give me your thoughts. I'll enjoy reading them and having conversations with you guys remotely. But most importantly of all, unless you're a dirty lying SNP minister who keeps telling us you never took politics into consideration when you were making decisions about the health of Scotland, have a great day. Cheery bye now.